Good day, everybody. This is Marcel Pertut, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Inquirer show. We're recording on May 7th, 2021. Hope all is well for you out there in the world. Sorry for the delay on our between shows. We usually don't like to take a full week off between editions of our podcast, but things come up in the world. Actually, some good things. I got my second vaccine shot, so that took about 2 days away from me. We had a lot of rain. I'll explain why it took a lot of time away from me. Starting off, we're recording on Friday, as I said, May 7th. Monday, I get to the vaccine center in Emerson, Georgia, which is about 7, 8 miles from where we're located in Ackworth, just outside the skirts of Atlanta, Georgia. The first time I did the shot, and it's one of those mass vaccine places, you don't even leave your car. You'd have a bunch of lines and everything like that. It took me about 10 minutes to go from arrival to getting my shot to leaving. This time, we had probably one of the nastiest storms since I've been in Georgia, and it's approaching 10 years now. And I had to wait and wait and wait in the rain, have my mother in the car with me because I was doing errands with her. That didn't help. No, I love my mother, but probably just sitting there waiting and waiting for all that time, waited there 2 hours, and in the end, because of all the lightning that was taking place, no shot. They closed it down and everything like that. So that wiped out my entire Monday. And then Tuesday I had stuff going on, and Wednesday I finally was able to get the shot. Once again, got there. Took about 10 minutes from arrival to getting the shot done and everything like that. But and I slept a lot afterwards because I feel good, thankfully. Fingers crossed. I'm recovering well from the shot, but everyone has different reactions. First time I did the shot, the first vaccine, really not too many issues. I really just got the shot, went home, and I stayed home because be precautionary, but nothing really came up. The second time though, I got tired. I took an afternoon nap, which was supposed to be recording time, and everything from there. So that just messed up my entire week. But we are back on the horse or the saddle on the horse, whatever the term is. We are now feeling healthy, feeling good, excited about getting the second vaccine shot. And, Lord willing, that makes it through my system and everything as well for me as far as being, I guess, vaccinated from COVID-19. I hope all of you are well and safe out there. Whether you take the vaccine or not, no judgment here. That's your own prerogative, your own priority. Whatever you want to do with your body is your business. But hopefully you're healthy and safe, whatever your choice is. We're all going through it right now, and Lord willing, I've been healthy, and a lot of family members have been healthy as well. So everything is good so far. So very thankful and grateful. I don't like mentioning religion a lot, but I'm a Christian, very spiritual. If you're not, that's cool too. Agnostic or being or atheist or things along those lines, or whatever your higher power or spiritual being beliefs are. It's all good. But I mentioned God quite a bit because I'm a Christian, very spiritual. But if you're not, that's cool too, as I mentioned. But hopefully, all is well for you out there in the world. But all right, let's get to the show itself. Today's broadcast, we got to catch up on a lot of things since we have not done the show in the past few days. We got to recap Atlanta United's contest against the Philadelphia Union in the CONCACAF Champions League. That took place earlier this week, and we'll go over that in the original free kick. We'll transition to the backdoor cut. Major changes in the coaching staff for the Atlanta Dream. I'll delve into that. The Gridiron Blitz. Thoughts on Aaron Rodgers. I have a few opinions on what's been going on with him and the Green Bay Packers. And then Miscellaneous Department, the most likely conclusion to a first ballot Hall of Famer in his sport. And it was just a very interesting way that his career has likely ended or hasn't ended. I have a theory on what can happen so this player can get a few more opportunities to perform in his sport before his eventual retirement. As always, if you to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, the sportsinquirer.net. You can go to our social media platforms. Head to the site, and that's where you'll find all of our content. You can head to our social media platforms under Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. and you go on there every time we do a show or some commentary or thoughts on things. It's all up on there. So make sure you go to our social media platforms and check that out. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcast, or iTunes, or wherever you get your audio and video content. Just search for us under the Sports Inquirer, and you will see all of our items there. So make sure you go to those places to get continued updates of everything we are doing with our site and beyond. All right, let's go to the original free kick in Atlanta United's performance in the CONCACAF Champions League. The Five Stripes were eliminated in the quarterfinal round of the CONCACAF Champions League with a 4-1 aggregate loss. Now, they did play earlier this week, and they drew the Philadelphia Union 1-1 in the second leg of the Champions League quarterfinal match. But the aggregate goals, due to them Atlanta losing 3-0 at home last week, they were eliminated from the competition by the aggregate score of 4-1. So Philadelphia advances to the quarterfinals or the semifinals of the Champions League for the first time in their franchise history. But let's stick to Atlanta United. Here is Gabriel Heinze, manager of Atlanta, on the loss.
Muy disputado de los dos equipos.
I think it was a good challenge from both teams.
Con una intensidad muy buena de ver.
With a good intensity.
De los dos con chance de marcar goles en cualquier momento.
From both sides with chance to score.
Fue un partido muy bueno.
I think it was a good game.
And they actually did play better in that Philadelphia Union in the second leg of the Champions League. But when you concede 3 goals, especially 3-0 in the first leg of a double leg part of a competition, it's very tough to advance. And Atlanta did grab that 1-0 lead, and we'll get to that goal in a minute, but just was not enough. Here's Emerson Hyndman, player for Atlanta United, on the loss.
Of course, we came into the game with a lot of belief. We thought we had chances in the last game, and we could have put it away early, but just missed our chances, and then kind of got punished for it. And so we knew we could score goals coming into this tie. It was just we had to risk a little bit more, obviously. And once we got the goal, I think we had even more belief in ourselves. But unfortunately, it just didn't go our way.
Yeah, and Atlanta was able to get a 1-0 lead in stoppage time of the first half in that second leg contest. Marcelino Moreno started to play. He had a nice pass to Santiago Sosa at the edge of the penalty area. He was able to shield the defender and click a shot in the far post past Andre Blake, goalkeeper for Philadelphia, to give Atlanta the 1-0 lead. Now, despite that 1-0 lead, it looks like there were some struggles for Atlanta to get the energy going and to get a consistent offense. Here's Hyndman on that situation.
It's hard to say. Obviously, we're playing against a decent team, and they have a 3-goal cushion, so I'm sure they were. I think they were sitting off a little bit more, trying to just make it a little bit difficult, packing in a little bit, especially first half. And we had to be kind of patient. We wanted to go for it. Obviously, you can't go for it from minute one and expose yourself too much. You kind of have to balance it a little bit. We were happy with getting a goal in the first half and thought we could push on from there. But in terms of energy wise, I think we all felt fine. It was just one of those games. I think we had to be even more patient than we thought going into it, and it's tough to sometimes go that route when you know you have to score 3 goals. But that's just kind of how it unfolded.
Atlanta did have solid possession in the second half and forced Blake to make 3 saves, but they could not get those extra goals going to make the contest a little bit closer with the aggregate scoring. Perspilko scored the equalizer for Philadelphia in the 88th minute, and that secured the Union's place in the semifinals. Here's Philadelphia manager Jim Curtin on the victory.
Yeah, look, I thought that the first 20 minutes was really, really strong. We knew it would be important against a very good Atlanta team to start the game with the right mentality and the right mindset. And our intensity was good. We had 4 or 5 really good looks in that first 20 minutes. Obviously, Atlanta's pushing in the other direction and had some chances too. But, when you don't score your chances or take your chances, you leave yourself open to what happened at the end of the half. But overall, I thought, over the two legs, while we weren't 3 goals better than Atlanta, I think we did deserve to advance. So overall, I'm really proud and happy with the group. It was a little more nerve-wracking and dicey than it needed to be. I thought we had a lot of transition moments, especially in the second half, that we could have finished things off a little bit earlier. A lot of things that, the ball hits the bar, we foul up simple plays that could lead to, 2-on-1s or 3-on-2s, just not getting that final pass right. I don't know how much of that is down to the fact that we're not able to, with our starting group, train very much. That was one thing we were just discussing, just because the schedule and the load's been so much that we're missing a lot of the transition practices and the hard days of training just because we're playing such a high volume of games. So overall, though, couldn't be more proud of the players. They deserve all the credit. We're into the Final Four of this continent, which sounds crazy, and I think everybody kind of has to pinch themselves in the locker room and in the stands. I think our fans can be proud of our team. I would have liked to have won the game tonight for the tiebreakers and the points that you could accumulate, but overall, really proud of the effort that the group put in. And your point is a good one, Jonathan. We did have the right intensity and the right mindset in the first 20 minutes. I think that set the tone. Still had some dicey moments for sure, but against any good team, you're going to have those.
And it's a big moment for the Philadelphia Union. Then in the CONCACAF semifinals, as I mentioned, the first time in franchise history. Very big turnaround for a franchise which has been meddling really since its introduction into Major League Soccer. But we saw last year they won the Supporters' Shield, and this year they are in the semifinals in the first time of their history. Here is Curtin on what advancing in the CONCACAF Champions League means for the Philadelphia franchise.
Yeah, it checks another box of a really important goal for the club. Again, it's one thing to have success in the league, which was and win a trophy, which was new for us last year. It's one thing to sell Brendan Aronson and Mark McKenzie and have them move on, and not just move on, but also really contribute to really good teams and lifting more trophies. That makes us proud. But now to move on in this competition into the Final Four and await the winner of the Club America Portland game, in August, we have a big opportunity, and that's something that certainly is good for our badge. It's good for the Philadelphia Union. And I think it's good that it shows, not just the rest of our league, but teams on this continent that, you can do it different ways. You can do it through spending. You can do it through a blend of spending and the academy. You can do it strictly through the academy. There's a lot of ways to do it. I think our way is unique to us. We don't have all the answers and we're not perfect. But at the same time now, I'm really proud of the players and the work that our staff has put in. I have an incredible group of people in that locker room that, to be quite honest, make our club look good and make my job very, very easy. So couldn't be more proud of them. Ernst Tanner and Chris Alberg give me great players. Ali Bedoya leads the group. I have an incredible staff, technical staff with everybody. Pat Noonan, and just everybody is just dialed in and on the same page, and we're having a lot of success. Phil Whedon and Frank Leik, they're doing a great job. Dave McKay. So again, I could go through the list. It's not just one person. It's not just one player. It's a real team effort. And again, it's unique to our identity and unique to the Philadelphia Union. And we think it's working good.
And if you look post-match, Curtin and Heinze had a very interactive discussion after the match. Here is Curtin on that post-game altercation or interaction between him and Heinze.
I respect Gabriel Heinze a ton. Incredible career. He's won everything. He's a champion. He's an incredible coach. I went to shake his hand after the game in Atlanta, and it was a little touchy. And then I went again and I shook his hand, and he was kind of dismissive a little bit, but I said you weren't going to shake my hand again, and then we had just had a discussion about the game. I thought our players were diving and faking injuries. I get that, but I don't think that's what we're about. I think we're about doing our talking on the field. I'm proud of the group for advancing. Look, I say it, he's an incredible coach. He's an incredible player, but you can still be also a sore loser and be an asshole at the end of the game. So I still think there's a right way. I think you should shake hands like men after the game. he'll probably have something to say now that I've said that. But again, I'm not going to just sit here and take it anymore. I think there's great American coaches in this league. There's great foreign coaches in this league. And I don't want to make anything more of it than that. But, it's something that, I don't know, maybe some things got lost in translation, but he was mad at me for Sergio, who was down on the ground after he cramped, coming out of the game too slowly. But he's certainly been in games where his team was winning, and he's, as a player or a coach, where, yes, there are some tactics and there is some things where you're not as urgent to get off the field. So it's in the past. Obviously, we're happy to move on in advance, and I have done nothing but respect his team throughout this entire CONCACAF tournament. They're a great team. He's a great coach. Seems like a good person, but I still think at the end of the day, you can shake hands and it's over after the 90 minutes.
And he calls him not an expletive, but calls him I don't think it's an expletive, but a very derogatory name. Curtin does to Heinze. I think that's just we've seen this before in any respective sport that you're watching, especially for a new franchise. And Atlanta is still in its early infancy. I mean, they're only in year 5 of their existence, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, compared to a league that's approaching 20 plus years of existence. And almost getting close to 30 years, honestly. The reality is that Atlanta came out very strong in its history. And remember, first year they made the postseason. Second year, just with MLS Cup. I mean, they have had for an expansion franchise. They're not really an expansion franchise anymore because we have Austin now and some other franchises which have developed since Atlanta became a franchise. But early success for Atlanta, they're going to be the envy of a lot of other franchises. And admittedly, the past 2 years or past 3 years have been, as I said, you go from postseason first year, second year MLS Cup. Obviously, you have the transition from head coach year 3, even with a different coach and Frank DeBoer. You win the U.S. Open Cup, so there's still that sense of winning. But the past few years, and then last year, bad start, and especially when the MLS's back Cup under Frank DeBoer, the manager, he was relieved of his duties and everything like that. You knew that when Atlanta had to fall down from that early start, and they can get back there. That's not what I'm saying, right? But right now, you're trying to rebuild. You have Heinze, a new head coach or new manager with the franchise. Teams that were getting stomped on by Atlanta the first 2 years really want to take advantage of kicking them while they're down. And Philadelphia is one of those franchises that are feeling their britches or feeling they feel that they are a championship contender, and they are. As I said, they had the best regular season last year in MLS. This year, obviously, we're early in the year. They have high hopes and expectations, and I think that's where. And Heinze, as I said, he's a very confident man himself. And as Curtin said, there was some questioning of the Atlanta players diving, and then our Heinze questioned the stall tactics of Blake and the Philadelphia players. I think all of that's true. I think that both sides have some fair arguments with it. But I think that if Atlanta was a middling franchise and has not won trophies in their first 3 years of existence, I think that venom would not be as strong from Curtin. And I think that's where the rest of the league has that approach as well. They really want to because Atlanta still has the resources and still they're not going anywhere. Now, will they win another MLS Cup or another US Open Cup? I can't predict the future as far as that goes. But the resources, the finances, all of that is there for Atlanta to build itself up to be a contender. And all it takes is the right management, the right head coach, the right set of players, and Atlanta has that ability. So I think these franchises like Philadelphia, they want to get Atlanta while they're down now and really stick it to them. And I think this was a really strong statement by Philadelphia, and they earned it. They were the better team over those 2 legs to advance to the semifinals. Unfortunately for Atlanta, their issue also was not having the availability of Ezekiel Barco and Jurgen Damm in the contest. Here is Heinze on what those missing players meant for Atlanta.
La construcción del equipo.
¿Cómo afecta la pérdida
de
Lam y Barco?
La pérdida de jugadores siempre afecta.
Like to lose players always affect.
Pero hoy se ha demostrado que aparte de estos buenos jugadores, acá hay un grupo de chicos y de futbolistas que quiere competir.
But apart from these players, the ones who play today, they prove that they are ready to play.
Porque los que han entrado, la verdad que ha estado muy bien, o como Eric que no jugaba y hoy ha jugado y se lo ha visto muy bien.
Like some of the new players, as Eric, that he play a really good game.
En esta época donde hemos jugado muchos partidos seguidos,
like in this period of the time where we have been playing a lot of games,
después de tantos meses que un equipo no ha jugado tantos partidos seguidos,
and after so many months without like a team playing this amount of games,
estas cosas pueden pasar.
These things could happen.
Así que bueno, ahora tenemos que utilizar otros jugadores y será así.
And now we need to use other players.
Yeah, and Atlanta returns to action on May 9th at Interim Miami. So they continued their road trip in MLS play, because remember last week they were in New England and dropped that contest, and now they were just in Philadelphia for the CONCACAF Champions League. They do return to MLS play once again on the road as they go to Inter Miami. And also another note with Atlanta before we move on to the backdoor cut and the Atlanta Dream: full attendance for their contest next week against Montreal at home. As I mentioned earlier, a few minutes earlier in the show about getting the vaccine, we're starting to see a lot more vaccines and a lot more opening up of facilities. I hear here in Atlanta, the Atlanta Braves have a home series this weekend. I wish I knew who they were playing, but point is, they are going to have a 100% capacity availability. I'm very intrigued to see how many people are in the stands for that. We saw in Texas earlier this year, they've been open since the very beginning, and they had huge crowds with the 100% capacity in their first weeks of the Major League season. I have a feeling you may see the same thing with Atlanta, but then I think there'll be some people who are used to being at home at this stage of their lives, like myself, not home all the time, but to attend a big sporting event with a lot of people, even with my vaccine, there are people that can be very unsure of that. But I'm very intrigued to see what happens there as far as the Braves go, but similar to the United when they host Montreal next week. So I just had to make that note because it does relate to things in the world. Let's move on to the backdoor cut and the Atlanta Dream. Major news out of the WNBA franchise as Nicki Collen, former head coach of the Dream as of a few days ago, she left the head coach position with Atlanta to become the Baylor head coach. Now, obviously, we know that the Baylor University, the NCAA team, they lost their legendary head coach to LSU. She moved on to there. Collen, who has college assistant coaching experience, made the move to Baylor. You know, it's a business that's professional. It's interesting because you look at the Atlanta Dream. It's a WNBA franchise, premier professional women's franchise in the United States, and that's a pretty solid job. And she was there a few years. First year there, a big turnaround, made it to the conference finals of the East. Last year, obviously, was underachieved or did not do as well as they wanted to. But last year, I don't want to say it's a wash because I don't want to take away from all those women that were down there competing in the bubble down in Florida. And there's not an asterisk towards the championship or anything like that. But Atlanta had a lot of opt-outs, including Tiffany Hayes, who you can argue is the best player on that roster, to different, injuries and COVID things. It was just a really rough year for Atlanta. They come back this year. Obviously, they get Hayes back. They made a lot of moves in the offseason, bringing players in, and you figured that this team, with some improvements, including drafting Ari McDonald, the point guard out of Arizona, the first round pick in this past WNBA draft, maybe they could have a winning record, maybe compete for a playoff spot. But Baylor is probably one of the top 3-4 jobs in women's college basketball. Obviously, teams that have really elevated themselves. We saw Stanford win a national title. Connecticut with Gina Auriemma. Tennessee has a big legacy. And there are some other teams that have really, stepped up in the women's college basketball game. But Kim Mulkey, the head coach of Baylor, 3 national championships with that program within the 2000s, within the past 10, 15 years. Tremendous tenure at Baylor. She moved on to LSU in the SEC. That leaves a very big opening. And Collen is 45 years old. I looked that up because I'm turning 40 this month. So at this stage of her career, you never know what the Atlanta Dream, new ownership led by Renee Montgomery. And remember, they were owned by former United States Senator from Georgia, Kelly Loeffler. That she's not the owner anymore. We all know the story there about the issues between Loeffler as an owner and the roster of the players and the coaching staff, and that tension that went all through last year. But there's a new ownership group led by Montgomery. Maybe Collen felt that it was a time to make a move before the new ownership comes in and relieves her of her duties with Atlanta. We see in every facet of life, new ownership of a professional sports organization, a factory, any business. Sometimes you don't want to keep the current workers that are on the staff. So I think Collen made some would say a lateral move. Some would say it's maybe an upgrade. We don't know what the salaries are financially and otherwise. Point is that she has moved on. She was very good to us here at Sports Inquirer and good to the media. So hopefully, maybe when things settle down or when the year starts up for Baylor, maybe we could catch up with her and we'll see what happens there. But, big move for her. And Atlanta, who has their regular season starting May 14th, which is next Friday, against Connecticut, has to move on and prepare for the season. Atlanta has promoted assistant coach Mike Petersen to interim head coach. He's been with the staff. He was an assistant under Collen for 3 seasons. So this is not new territory for him as far as being with Atlanta. Here is Petersen on the job timeline and the past few days of him becoming head coach of Atlanta.
We found out, Darius and I found out that Nicki was as involved as she was yesterday morning before practice, frankly. So, and that's the way these things happen. Our industry, whether it's college or the pros, a lot of times these things pop in a hurry, right? And so, we found out then, and from that point forward, a lot of Zooms and some team Zooms and some Zooms with ownership. And we just spent basically all day yesterday meeting and talking and making sure that we were doing the right thing for the players in this organization, because this is just a fabulous group of players. They've been so good all camp. They've had tremendous energy and focus. And so, my thing is just, I'm here to serve. That's all. It's the same thing I was here the last 3 years. I'm here to serve our players. And so however the organization asks me to serve, that's what I'm going to do.
And this is a major change for a team which has its regular season begin May 14th against Connecticut, which is 7 days from the recording of this show. Here is Petersen on the players handling the change.
No, I don't think so. Again, one of the things about teams and athletes, okay, is frankly, we usually operate in a little bubble. We were all in the bubble last year, right? But even in a normal year, the best teams and the best athletes very much operate in a bubble. They very much insulate themselves from distraction. The best teams do. And so this group has been, frankly, very good at being focused on their teammates, being focused on the process, being focused on the work at hand, whether that's in the practice gym or in the recovery area or in the weight room. And so, there's not going to be a very big change in terms of how we operate day to day. Nicki always, involved Darius and I a lot in the process, in practice, in game preparation, during the game. And so our players are very used to hearing our voices. And so that won't be a very big change at all. And so what Darius and I want to do is just make sure that they know that we're here for them and that there's going to be, here's the plan, okay? Here's how we're operating. And it'll be a little different. I mean, Darius and I aren't Nicki. There you go. So it'll be a little different. Personalities are a little different. Approach is a little different. But by and large, we want to be able to just give the players that framework. And good athletes love routine, okay? The best athletes have great habits, right? And so if we can give them a framework to develop their habits in, then we're doing a good job for them.
Now, a positive for Atlanta with everything going on is that Petersen has extensive head coaching experience at the collegiate level. He led the programs at Gonzaga, New Mexico State, TCU, Wake Forest, and North Texas. So him being the head coach is not unfamiliar territory for him. Here is Petersen addressing that head coaching experience.
I have coached a lot of games. That's when people say that, I always think, well, that's a polite way of saying I'm really old. But the meshing with this group, we've already been doing that. You know what I mean? We were doing that for the last however many days we've been in training camp. We did it with the group last year in the bubble, right? And so, I don't think that's a big adjustment, frankly, for the players or for us. We talked about it today when we met. This group was assembled by our staff. So everyone that's on this team, Darius, Nicki, and I were in agreement about, boy, this is a great piece to add to this group. And so it's not like, well, Nicki's gone, so the one that really wanted me here is gone, right? We all were in agreement on the way this group has come together. And so I think that makes it easier, and there will be some differences. I told the team today, I'm a short practice guy. That's just me. Now, it doesn't mean they're easy. We're going to go short. We're going to go hard, and we're going to get out of here, right? And so our practices will be a little bit shorter. And, I'm very much an offensive end of the floor person, okay? And so Darius is going to be very dialed in on the defense. We're going to do this very cooperatively, okay? And so he'll be really dialed in on the D, and I'll be really dialed in on the O. And so that'll be a little different, I guess. But, my deal is treat people right, try to be as positive as you can all the time. People like positive reinforcement. They usually respond better to it.
And obviously with a new head coach comes a new approach to things as far as being the leader of the team. Here is Petersen on his approach this upcoming season and maybe some differences between him and Nicki Collen.
Yeah, there'll be very little. I mean, philosophically, there'll just be very little change because one of the things we did as a staff in our 3 years together is it was very much a staff philosophy. You know what I mean? Nicki was just awesome at including Darius and I, seeking input and then folding that into the way that we did things. Now, she was the boss, okay? She was the head coach. She ran things, and she did a great job, right? But the roster and the structure, the philosophy, the playbook, so to speak, right, was very much a staff-wide deal. So, you'll see little differences, but a lot of that will be, just my personality is going to be different from Nicki's personality. Darius's personality is going to be different from Nicki's personality, right? And there'll just be a little bit more of that.
And we'll be keeping track of everything going on with the Atlanta Dream and Coach Petersen as they prepare and continue to advance through their preseason and get ready for the regular season. All right, moving on to Aaron Rodgers and everything going on with Green Bay. I'm over it already. Look, it was fun during draft night And this is the Gridiron Blitz portion of our show for all of you keeping track of it. Look, it was fun on draft night where he made the announcement he doesn't want to go back to Green Bay, even though we already know for weeks, some would say months, that he doesn't want to go back there. Some would say even a year after they made the draft pick of Jordan Love in the first round of the 2020 NFL draft. The reality is, look, he's disgruntled. He's unhappy with everything going on there as far as they have dismissed or fired some of his favorite players, some of his coaches, the Jordan Love pick because they've picked his successor and everything like that. He's very intellectual guy and he just approaches things very differently. We've seen him in stint on Jeopardy recently. He figures himself to now be a true intellect, and being a host of Jeopardy feeds into that, even though it's a temporary gig or filling gig until they find a permanent guy. You add all that together, you have a person who he likes the spotlight. We've seen him, he's recently engaged to an actress and everything like that. He's reached a point of his career where he really wants to be in the limelight. And you would think being the quarterback of Green Bay Packers, one of the storied franchises in the NFL, would be enough, but not necessarily so. So now we're starting to see these things leak out slowly but surely every few days. Now we're seeing that when he has these group chats with his players, he calls the Green Bay general manager Jerry Krause, the former disgruntled, well, I'll say disgruntled disgrace. Jerry Krause is a Hall of Famer, the former general manager of the Chicago Bulls during the Michael Jordan era. If you saw The Last Dance, you see that Michael Jordan and Jerry Krause had a contentious relationship and everything along those lines. So now Aaron Rodgers is comparing himself to Michael Jordan in that regard and everything like that. It's just constant things every few days with it. We're recording this, as I've mentioned, on May 7th. You're not going to see any activity, whether it's a trade or he's not going to be released. We all know that. There's going to be nothing until June 1st, just for salary cap purposes. So look, I'm in the sports media business. You got to fill in time with as much as you can. And Aaron Rodgers is a marquee name in professional sports. In fact, my headline will probably have Aaron Rodgers in it just to get a few more clicks of this show. So I'm guilty of it as well. But it's just the constant news about him every day when you know nothing is going to happen. But yeah, it's just I'm over that quite a bit. We see some mini camps opening up right now. I guess rookie camp for the Jets opens today. We're not going to get too much NFL news going on from there. You're just going to have a lot of distanced training, campus sessions. This time of year would kind of be fun when you would have holdouts as far as the rookies, when there's no rookie salary cap or rookie pay scale. Those don't exist anymore. All the guys are pretty much slotted what they're going to make. And so it's a relatively quiet period in the NFL as far as that goes. And if you want to get a recap of my thoughts on the NFL draft, please listen to our previous show, Sports Inquirer Show 153. I do a deep dive into the first round of the NFL draft and my full thoughts on it. It's worth the listen, so make sure you check that out. All right, we're going to end the show in the Miscellaneous Department. Albert Pujols, future first ballot Hall of Fame first baseman, designated for assignment by the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Or the Angels, I call them the Angels. The whole LA Anaheim thing is a silly name. Point is, though, they relieved him of his duties as it's pretty much a firing when he designated for assignment. As I said, we're recording this, I keep saying, year 2021. If you go by generations, you can go by, I say, 15, 20 years or so. He may be the best player in this generation. You look at the home runs, more than 600 in his career, 3,000 hits for his career, multiple MVPs, at least 10 time, double-digit All-Star appearances. So yeah, 667 home runs, fifth all-time in history. Only player in Major League history with more than 600 home runs, 3,000 hits, and multiple world championships. He won 2 of them with St. Louis. Yeah, so 3 MVPs, 10-time All-Star selection, 2 Gold Gloves, underrated defender, top 15 all-time in RBIs, hits, and runs. As I said, probably the best player of this generation, but he has had his struggles the past few years with the Angels, and this year hitting right around 200. He has a few home runs, so he hits for power when he connects, but just struggles quite a bit. I know what's going to bum him out is that if he doesn't play again, his lifetime average is 298. And that may sound very good to Aaron, obviously very good for anybody, but those guys love having a lifetime average of 300. Here, Chipper Jones, and we're in Atlanta, so we get to hear a lot of Chipper with media and otherwise. That's probably one of the most prideful things for him. He's a lifetime 300 hitter. And you talk to all of the other guys, the Boggs, the Carews, or Tony Gwynn's, when those guys some were still living, they take a lot of pride in being a lifetime 300 hitter because that is if you hit a 300 for your career, that's tremendous, especially with all his stats for Pujols. But at 298, that's going to eat at his craw. And he's not. When I saw it yesterday, I said he's done. He's retired. He's finished. No one's going to pick him up because it is just where he is in his career. And I don't know if you have to do the mathematics for him to be a 300 hitter again. I'll have that on the next show. But I would not be surprised if St. Louis picks him up, and he's a free agent. He can sign anywhere he wants for any amount of money. I would not be surprised if St. Louis, towards the end of the season, signs him, especially if they're not in the postseason. And right now, it's still early in the year, so you can't really make postseason predictions. And the NL Central I think, will be very wide open this year. I know Milwaukee is off to a good start, but they're not exactly world beaters. I would not be surprised if he goes home to St. Louis, the team that originally drafted him and he had so much success with, and he signs for the last few weeks of the year. So I don't think his career is over. So that's why I'm going to hold off on the retrospective of Albert Pujols until his career is completely done. But I think that's where he can possibly find a nice landing spot if he wants to continue his career. And as I said, all the numbers that he has are as far as the home runs, RBIs, all that stuff are superlative. But I still think that 300 average for a career is a major, major thing for him. And if he could play 2 weeks and pick up 4 or 5 hits, or maybe the last month or so, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with him there. All right, that concludes today's show. Thanks for listening to our show, our broadcast. As always, go to thesportsinquirer.net. You can also go to our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Sports Inquirer, that's all one word. And finally, subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and others. And just do a search for us under the Sports Inquirer, and you'll be able to follow everything that we are doing. Until next time, good fight, good night, be safe.